not how the money game is bullshit, but just that there's a different way, like different way to do this. And so what we played versus a 90-day money game and why ours was so successful.
Right.
So there's a lot of questions for me about, as I would talk about serving versus this and how I played this 90-day service game, a lot of coaches had a question and I would be pulled aside and say, what is this service game? And how is it different than a 90-day money game? So that would be fun for you and I just to share because you did it with me.
Yeah, I'd love to do
what this was and why it worked.
Yeah, and I remember, the biggest reason it worked was because we were ready to play without our fear.
Okay.
For me, that's really what it was. It was, okay, so every time I would look at service, which is helping somebody before they'd pay me, really making a difference, making a profound impact in their life, I was always about this much hung on to, I got to get them as a client. This is what I can do. So there was a little bit of manipulation, always a little bit.
Yeah.
My hands on it. And when we made the decision to powerfully serve and then to play without our fear, that's what really turned the whole thing around for me.
Yeah.
When my fear was that if I really served, then nobody was ever going to hire me.
And why not? What was the fear? Like, what was the fear that they wouldn't hire you because you served, or they wouldn't hire you because of what? How would that trigger it?
Hang on to somehow I've got to get them as a client. If there wasn't a little bit of that thinking going on, like I've got to pay attention to, I've got to get them as a client. This has got to result in a paid relationship. If I didn't have any of that thinking going on, I just put it over to the side. Then what would happen is if I just truly served 100%, then I was going to discover that nobody was going to hire me. That's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's when Gary said, well, nobody's ever going to hire you ever again, like ever. And that's the game you're playing. And then I thought, okay, well, I might as well find out now. I might as well find out, is this service thing really going to work? Because by this time I had been coaching long enough. I had been, half-assing service long enough that it's like, all right, so let's really find out if this is going to work.
And the basis of our game, just again, the distinction between a 90-day money game and our 90-day service game was what? Just to lay it out, because I want to share this with people that have never experienced either before, or that have only played one side of this thing.
Yeah. So I never, when I played the money game, when it was put out on Facebook, the idea was, if I can remember, and maybe I'm getting this wrong, but the idea was to create proposals. So it was, connect, invite, manipulate. No, I mean, and propose.
Yeah.
And so my problem wasn't asking for money. My problem wasn't pushing to try to close the deal. Actually, that was the problem. Because I remember Gary saying that he had a hard time asking. Well, that wasn't my problem. I could ask. They couldn't see the value, even though I could see it. So this isn't super clear. But with the money game, it was to make a list of how much money do you want to propose in 90 days? So, 100,000. And then the game was to create conversations and propose. And it didn't matter whether or not you got paid.
Right.
It didn't matter as long as you proposed. So I started, and it was a couple of weeks into it, and I realized my problem is that I've overly focused on the money.
Cool.
That's where I'm losing it. So if I keep playing this game, I'm just going to make worse my situation, which is this over-focused on money. And that's what's driving people away, because they know that it's all about me.
Right.
They know that I'm proposing because I want their money. So it just wasn't working. And that's when I knew I had to stop, because I could just feel it. There was such pressure. There was a lot of anger I felt. Why aren't you just freaking paying me?
Yeah.
And it didn't matter.
That's so good. That's so spot on. That's exactly my experience. I love that, how you said it just now.
And so I just knew, it's like, my God, if I keep doing this, I'm going to bury myself, because this was the problem all along. That's why I went to, how can you sell from the stage, and how can I raise my fee? And it was all about me and this darn money. And that's when I just went, okay, my God, I've got to let go of it.
Yeah.
And let me see if this service thing works. You know, Steve would always talk about test, not trust. So I had to let go even of just a little bit of that. You know, oh, I gotta get them.
Yeah. So service was different how? This service game, so we're still playing 90 days. We're calling it a service game versus a money game. What we talked about the fear. So one of the pieces was we all identified our biggest fear around, if I serve this way, if I really serve, they won't hire me because I'm not focused enough on getting the client. My fear was to call out bullshit stories clients would feed me. This was a pleasing thing, right? If I hear your story, Melissa, and I can tell it's complete crap, but if I call it out, you might not like what I say, and I'm taking that story away from you, or I might be wrong. It might not be your story. I might have misread you, and now you're frustrated with me, and you either leave me if you're a current client or just say, fuck you, and never hire me if you're not a client yet. So I had to let go of that because I wasn't being honest with people. I was buying into, it was like they'd lay out this cage they were in, and I'd get in the cage with them and be like, all right, let's work in here. Instead of just like tearing the walls down and saying, fuck the cage, let's just go out and create. So I was going in, I was scared if I didn't join their fantasy with them, they wouldn't want to work with me. So we picked our fears, and we decided to put the fears aside and serve. And yours, how did yours play out? How did your fear play out?
Well, my fear, I really was afraid that if I didn't have even a little bit of an attachment to getting them as a client, then I wouldn't get them as a client.
Gotcha.
If I really just serve them, if I really focus on them, if I really powerfully help them, then what's going to happen is I'm going to discover nobody's ever going to hire me.
Okay.
And then this thing that I love to do, I'm not going to be able to do it because I'm not going to do it for free.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I'm going to have to go do something else. Maybe go back to Starbucks.
Yeah.
Oh, never. But you know, you talked about playing through the fear. It was really playing without the fear.
Right.
And the other thing is if you notice what the three of us had in common is those fears are all self-focused. And when there's any bit of me focused on me, I'm not really serving. I'm not really helping. Because there's an end to me helping you. It's getting something for me. Oh, you like me. Oh, you'll work with me. Oh, you'll pay me money. Oh, I am really smart. I can read anybody's story. Yeah.
Well, our game was 90 days of what? Like, how did we, remind me how we structured it? Again, we all are so close to it now because we've been talking about it for so long, but I want to take it from like the beginning. So we structured this thing how?
Well, my recollection of it is that, you know, I get the call from Gary, hey, do you want to play? And it's like, okay, what is it?
Yeah.
Oh, we're just going to serve.
So Gary calls you up and what happens?
Yeah, and he says, you know, I'm going to play this service game with Dave Schwendeman. Do you want to play with us? And, you know, I don't like games. And then I'm like, well, what are we doing? Well, and then Gary just laughs and we're going to serve people. Well, for the last, I don't know how many years, that's what I had been doing in terms of working with Steve Chandler, was really understanding what service meant and growing my understanding of it. Because at first I didn't even know what it was. So what was beautiful is Gary says, well, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to do it for 90 days. We're not going to play the money game. We're going to play the service game. And then I thought, well, I've been playing this game for a long time. So if I'm going to play it, how is this going to be different? How is this 90-day test going to be different? And that's when it's like, well, I got to do this without any fear.
Yeah.
Because I knew that what was keeping me back from really finding out whether service worked or it didn't work was that I hung on to even a little bit of fear.
Cool.
And so we all agreed we'd play without our fear. We identified our fear. Yours was different than mine. Mine was different than Gary's.
I like that distinction you made because you're right on. I was saying play through the fear, but we really did. The idea was to leave the fear at home, to not bring it with us into the coaching.
Yeah, and we could pick it up in 90 days, and we all agreed with that. And I was very serious about that because I'm serious about games. And I thought, you know, I've got to know this now. I've got to really get this for myself. And that's what we did. And that was my total focus. And I was so committed to it. And that's when, you know, all that changed for me because I started to see, That's what people care about. You know, that idea, somebody only cares if you can help them. That's all they care about. That's true.
So we set up our Facebook feed. There was 3 of us, right? So we were helping each other, but not whining, right? It was us getting together and like, how can I serve? Either asking questions. My memory of it is I'd meet someone and be confused about how to most powerfully serve this person. So I'd bring that to you guys, and we'd either hop on a call, or if we got stuck with something, we could talk. Or if there was frustration, like it was never us. One memory I have of it is it wasn't us validating why this wasn't working. It was us helping each other figure out how to make it work. Because I see so much of, God, this is so hard, and everyone either just jumping on and giving advice or commiserating, you're right, this is tough, clients will do this to you. It was us like, let's figure this out. Because if we're truly serving, there's no way it can go wrong, except that we might see an opportunity where we could have served more powerfully. But it didn't matter what came back at us, because that wasn't the point. The point was entirely outward focused. So we couldn't screw it up, because any complaining was inward focused, and that wasn't part of the game. So we could help. I remember myself, you guys helping me reset constantly to this outward. If it started to go in, if I don't think it's working, I'm not getting what I need, get it back out, Dave. Like, that's not service. That's inward. We got to get you focused back out again.
That's it. And the other really cool thing was it took courage for me, because I had been doing this for so long. It took courage for me to really be honest with you guys on that Facebook thread.
Right.
Because, you talked about the guy that you had met who's just, I'm great and I'm this and I'm that. I wanted that persona. But I knew that if I did that with you and Gary, that I wouldn't benefit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't win at the game. And part of winning at the game was having you help me. So I needed to serve you guys, and I needed for you to help me. And there was never a time where I ever felt judged or put down or anything by either you or Gary. All I felt was just like an immense respect that we were in this together, because it was really a big growing up time for me.
Yeah.
I really grew up as a person because I was willing to get help, and I was also willing to set aside this insecurity about people need to pay me.
Yeah. Cool.
It was good.
And the results were there, right? Yeah. For you and Gary right away. For me, it took a second 90 days before I really had it take off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then when I find myself falling out of it, meaning I get wrapped up in some fear, or I become, like you said before, inner focus, I can notice that and cut myself some slack. I'm human.
Yeah.
And then just get back in the game.
Yeah.
Get back in what's really going to help this person? What else can I do? Is there anything else? And until I feel that they've had enough of an experience that their life is beginning to be different, and they can know, do they want more of it or do they not?
Yeah.
Either ways.
And that's a key distinction, I think. And I don't want to go too far into that. I think that's a whole other conversation. But people ask me, so you just serve forever? You just help people forever? Like, when do you get paid? And that's what's so great. Is I was talking to some of these coaches at the event. I said, you get the payment is not what you focus on. But at a certain point, for me to keep showing up and having these nice talks with you is now I move from serving you to enabling you.
Right.
At a certain point, you've got to commit to this work on a professional level. So the initial conversations, I give everything, but I also have to recognize that because you haven't committed financially and fully thrown yourself in, those conversations aren't going to be as powerful. And so once you see how good this can be, you then have to decide, do I want in or am I good for now? And I'm good either way. Like you said, we have to, because we've let go of the outcome, but that does come a point where you've got to make that choice.
Yeah. And I want to say that that's particularly important, this idea of, am I serving or am I enabling? And that's really important when you coach another coach, because the greatest disservice that I can do to another coach is to keep giving them free coaching.
Right.
Because what I'm doing is I'm role modeling for them a way of being that's simply doesn't help them stand in their own power, in their own value, and treat this profession with respect.
Yeah.
And so I also know that it's easy for me to ask for somebody to invest in themselves at a particular level because of my willingness to do that. And I know that there's coaches who are helping other coaches, and that's wonderful, but at some point, it's really important to be paid.
Yeah.
They need to pay you for them, for their own success.
I wanted to get that out there. I feel like that's this weekend, that was such an important piece.